There may be a crisis in the 2026 NFL Draft quarterback class. The group could be saved by these 5 players. Hold off till the following year. Regarding the strength of the quarterback class in an upcoming draft, that has often been the mantra that NFL teams and fans have been waiting for. Of course, an industry centered on looking past what's immediately at hand and instead gazing far down the line is partly to blame for that mentality. However, there appear to be good cause to think that a more promising future for the post was in store, given that just 2 passers made the first-round cut in April. When it came to the 2026 class of signal callers, the general consensus was that a group that seemed more promising for its depth and its elite talent would undoubtedly produce another Cam Ward, who rose from the depths of the draft to become the Tennessee Titans' first overall pick last season. But as September draws to a close, very few, if any, of the most potential quarterback prospects in the draft pool for the following season have solidified themselves as first-round picks, let alone ones deserving of a top 5 pick. This indicates that a few players who have the potential to influence the future of multiple NFL teams have reached a turning point. Since there was no obvious preseason favorite to be selected first overall, many people believe that Texas Arch Manning had the best chance of outperforming all of his peers in his debut season. However, his obvious pain has at least momentarily put a stop to any discussions about his potential to be the face of a professional team in less than a year, proving that the way too early predictions were just that. During this first stretch, Cade Klubnik of Clemson, who also attracted some incredibly premature attention as a possible top pick, has likewise been a huge letdown. There have, of course, been some positive aspects of the class. Garrett Nussmeier of LSU has persisted in establishing himself as the best quarterback available. After having a difficult 2024 season with Georgia, Carson Beck of Miami has also benefited himself, though it may be difficult to overcome worries about his velocity. Additionally, a number of signal callers who are currently more likely to be in the day 2 or 3 area, such as Josh Hoover of TCU, Sawyer Robertson of Baylor, and Taylon Green of Arkansas, have distinguished themselves with impressive performances. However, there's still no one pushing all the way to the front of the group. Additionally, many NFL teams may be looking forward to a more complete selection of possibilities worthy of a large investment in April of next year. The Cleveland Browns have a great chance to move past the Deshaun Watson period and this year's acceptance of quarterback purgatory with 2 first-round selections. Teams with uncertainty behind center that are also in a position to choose early in the draft order include the New York Jets and the New Orleans Saints. Given the possibility that Aaron Rodgers may retire after this season, the Pittsburgh Steelers must invest in a quarterback of some sort. Additionally, a potential replacement for Matthew Stafford would appeal to the Los Angeles Rams, who now have 2 day 1 picks following their April trade with the Atlanta Falcons. Despite the fact that quarterbacks are still pushed up draft boards due to the enormous importance the league places on them, teams have made it clear that they would not select passers in the first round just for the purpose of doing so. The fact that Kenny Pickett was the only player to have his name called in the first 32 selections in 2022 and number 20 served as further evidence of that lesson this past spring. However, there is still plenty of time for prospects to change people's opinions. The following 5 guys could prevent a complete meltdown in this quarterback class. Oregon's Dante Moore. Moore is a wild card that has the potential to drastically change the course of this class in comparison to preseason projections. As a true freshman at UCLA in 2023, the former 5-star recruit only completed 53.5% of his attempts with 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, meaning he had a lot of work to do to rebuild his career. Moore, however, has kept the Ducks offense in peak form after trailing Dylan Gabriel for a year. In 4 games, he has thrown for 11 touchdowns and 1 interception. The 6'3", 206-pound player can stretch plays, stack passes, and push the ball downfield with ease, making him available for nearly every throw. But Moore's unusual coolness also makes him stand out. In fact, on Thursday, standout tight end Kenyon Sadiq of Oregon, who previously played with Gabriel and Bo Nix, went so far as to call Moore one of, if not the calmest quarterback I've ever played with. If Moore struggles in the last stretch of Big Ten play, he could always come back for another season because of his lack of experience. but there may not be much of a reason to if he continues in this manner. Mendoza Fernando, Indiana. The Cal transfer may have performed better than any other signal caller in the early going of the season, amassing a football bowl subdivision high 14 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in the Hoosiers' first 4 games. Additionally, last week's 5-touchdown performance in a rout of a formidable Illinois defense was a fantastic beginning to a difficult stretch, even though he still needs to prove himself against increased competition. Mendoza's ability to discern throws and handle pressure has improved significantly thus far. The 6'5", 225-pounder's arm strength and athleticism lean more toward adequate than promising, so he might not have the same enormous physical potential as other players on this list. However, despite his shortcomings as a creator, many franchises would welcome the chance to focus their attacks on a dependable rhythmic distributor. Sellers was the subject of a lot of the offseason debates about who was most likely to emulate Ward's path. The 6'3", 240-pound signal caller, who is just as skilled at running as he is at uncorking deep heaves and crashing over defenders, established himself as one of college football's most dangerous playmakers going into the season. However, as a passer, he started to fall much behind many of his peers, and he needed to improve, especially in terms of anticipation and processing. His development appeared to be in jeopardy for a moment after he was inconsistent against South Carolina State and had a head injury that forced him to leave a game against Vanderbilt. However, a 308-yard, 2-touchdown performance versus Missouri served as a reminder of his alluring potential, as Sellers produced spectacular downfield runs from the pocket, as well as when moving. Norris, who is still only a redshirt sophomore at age 20, has time to mature and acquire the consistency that has mostly eluded him in his early career. However, he is virtually guaranteed to soar to the top of draft boards if he figures everything out this fall. Oklahoma's John Mateer. In the early season, his status was definitely rising, but given his inconsistent play, the Washington State transfer was expected to present one of the more difficult assessments. It will now be much more difficult to get a good read on Mateer because several sources suggest that surgery for a fractured hand could keep him out of commission for up to a month. As a passer and runner, the 6'1", 224-pounder consistently made significant gains by using some magic in the face of pandemonium, demonstrating his gutsy style that was sure to appeal to many. However, he may need to show that he can control his other dangerous inclinations because the jump passes and other risky throws he frequently uses won't work in the NFL. Although missing a significant portion of the season is undoubtedly a hardship, Mateer might still qualify for the first round if he keeps showing off his inventiveness when he returns and improves his pocket passing skills. Penn State's Drew Allar. With the hope that the former 5-star recruit would make the huge leap that many have been waiting for, I declared Allar the early favorite to be chosen number 1 in 2026 in April. But as of right now, he remains the same streaky thrower who has always annoyed onlookers with his unpredictable play. Though the 6'5", 235-pound passer threaded some of the most amazing deep completions made at this level, flashes of his elite potential have still occasionally shown. However, he frequently makes erratic ball placements for even the simplest throws due to breakdowns in his footwork and mechanics. With only 686 yards against poor competition in 3 games, he hasn't done much to allay those worries. However, his prognosis will be decided in the upcoming months as a much more formidable schedule of games, beginning on Saturday against Oregon, will show whether he can finally perform well against elite opponents after failing miserably in his first 2 seasons as a starter. He will have plenty of admirers if he turns out to be a real catalyst for the Nittany Lions attack rather than a conduit. But questions about his talent can't be rooted in hypotheticals much longer.